Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my SmackDown review. And tonight's SmackDown was held from the Bach Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I gotta say, I enjoyed SmackDown tonight. I thought it was a solid show. Wasn't, a great show by any means, but it was a solid show. I really enjoyed SmackDown tonight. I had fun with it. And also tonight marked the beginning of Season 2 of the Mixed Match Challenge, which happened after SmackDown. It was on Facebook Watch. And I'm going to talk about that. And Season 2 of the Mixed Match Challenge this year, it's a lot different from, Season 1, which happened earlier this year. So I'm going to talk about that. But let's talk about SmackDown. Let's get on with the SmackDown review. So SmackDown opened up really strong with a Miz TV segment. And Miz begins the Miz TV segment, saying that he has big news. And it's revealed on the Titantron that at the Super Showdown, it's going to be Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, and the winner of that match will face, will face the WWE champion. They'll get an opportunity at the WWE Championship, whether it's Styles or Joe. If it's either Daniel Bryan or Miz, one of them will face Styles or Joe for the WWE Championship. So that's pretty cool. Mostly, we all know it's probably going to be The Miz. As much as I want to see Daniel Bryan, be in the WWE Championship picture, get that opportunity, I think it's going to go to The Miz, in my opinion. I think they're saving up, for Daniel Bryan, to defeat Miz. I think that's going to probably happen next year at WrestleMania 35. I think that's going to be the time that Daniel Bryan will get a win and defeat The Miz. But who knows? I know that's what their plan is going to be. So Miz says Daniel Bryan is not on his level, and that Miz is superior to Daniel, and Miz says he's going to beat him again. He's going to beat Daniel Bryan again at the Super Showdown. And he's going to move on to face either AJ Styles or Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. And so he introduces, this big guest that he has for Miz TV. And, his guest is his wife, Maurice, which was no shock at all. So then, Maurice, comes out. Maurice says, she is a way better athlete than Daniel Bryan's, wife Brie. She ends up saying that, Brie's heart wasn't in it, in the match at Hell in a Cell this past Sunday. She says the only reason why Brie married Daniel Bryan is for Brie to stay relevant in the company in WWE. And so Maurice says she has breaking news of her own. And so Maurice announces that tonight is going to be her last night on SmackDown. Because she's a mother. She has to take care of her daughter, Monroe Sky. So, and so Miz says, his wife is a role model to a woman out there. The crowd was booing, and Miz got so pissed off at that. He's like, "You're booing a mother." But it was funny though. And Miz says, he will destroy Daniel Bryan, and he tells Daniel Bryan to come out. So he's basically, calling out Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan then comes out, and, he gets on the mic. He says to Miz that, he can talk about, him all he wants. And he goes to say, to Miz that, when he talks about his wife, this is what he will get. And so Daniel Bryan gets in the ring, starts throwing punches at Miz. Daniel Bryan ends up knocking Miz into, Maurice. And Maurice, will look like, she was, injured from Miz, from Daniel Bryan, knocking Miz into her. Looked like she was injured. But we saw referee Charles Robinson, was calling out, the medics to come help out Maurice. And we find out that, Maurice ended up tricking Daniel Bryan. She wasn't really, hurt. And it led to, that was pretty much a setup. So, the Miz could, get the upper hand on Daniel Bryan. But Daniel Bryan then came back. He moved. The Miz was trying to, take out Daniel, but Daniel ended up moving out of the way. Miz ended up knocking down Maurice, where Maurice was on the apron. And so Daniel Bryan ended up giving a wicked clothesline to the Miz. He ended up knocking Miz out of the ring. And that pretty much ended the segment. So, I liked the segment, this Miz TV segment. It was enjoyable. Had fun with it. So yeah. So now in that big news, now that we're gonna get Daniel Bryan versus the Miz at the Super Showdown in Australia. One of them, if whoever wins, they will get to face either Styles or Samoa Joe. Depending who wins the WWE Championship. We're gonna get that. So, and yeah. So my pick, WWE, is probably gonna go with the Miz to win at the Super Showdown. As much as I want to see Daniel Bryan, in the WWE title picture, have him get that opportunity, I think it's going to go to the Miz. So and then when SmackDown came back from commercial, Daniel Bryan was being interviewed backstage about what happened out there moments ago with the Miz and Maurice. And Daniel Bryan says that Miz is a coward, and with the Miz calling him out, he knew something was going to happen, and that it was going to be a set. Daniel Bryan knew it was going to be a setup. And Daniel Bryan goes on to say that he knows Miz's tricks, and in Australia at the Super Showdown, he's going to punch his ticket for an opportunity for the WWE Championship. So that was that little interview with Daniel Bryan. It was a nice little interview. Then we had the first match. It was Cesaro versus Kofi Kingston. Before the match even started, the New Day ended up coming out. They were dressed in Biggie and I think Xavier were dressed, in like a jungle safari type, clothes. And Kofi says that at Hell in a Cell, they proved that there is only one day on SmackDown. And he says it's not Rusev Day, it's the New Day. And Xavier Woods says, what's next is they will be defending their SmackDown Tag Team Championships against Cesaro and Sheamus at the Super Showdown. And Cesaro says, New Day dresses like New Day dresses like clowns, and they have jokes that are not so funny. And Sheamus agrees with Cesaro. Sheamus says, New Day are a joke, and that they are going to take the SmackDown Tag Team Championships from them come the Super Showdown. And so the match got underway, and the match started when SmackDown went to commercial. Like they have the commercial on the right hand side, and they have that little box there with the match going on. But when SmackDown came back from commercial, the match, of course, was still going on, and the match itself, it was decent, but it was short. But Cesaro ended up getting the win. He ended up pinning the neutralizer on Kofi Kingston. But it was a decent match. It was short. Considering most of the match was taking place during the commercial. But it was a decent match. It was short. Then we saw Rusev and Lana backstage. Aiden English ended up coming, and he says to Rusev that tonight he's got a good chance that he got it. And so Rusev says to Aiden, he won't be out. He won't be in the match tonight. And Rusev tells Aiden, that we all got to pull our weight, and if that was his best, that he had at Hell in a Cell. And Rusev ends up telling Aiden, it wasn't good enough, in the match that they had on the kickoff pre-show at Hell in a Cell. And so Aiden English, starts shouting at a crew guy that came there, and Aiden ends up shouting, saying, is Rusev serious? Rusev Day was, because of him, is what he told, the crew guy. And he says to him that Rusev and Lana would be nothing without him, and that he blames all Rusev's failures on Lana. And Lana ends up hearing, what Aiden English had to say, because Aiden didn't know Lana, heard all this. And so Lana then hears it, and she ends up telling Aiden, she's going to tell Rusev. So that's pretty much what happened backstage. But from this, we could tell that Rusev Day is going to be broken up. So, but that's what happened backstage. Then we went to the production truck, and we saw Randy Orton was in there, and he tells one of the guys there, the production guys, to put up the footage of what he did at Hell in a Cell. And he's like, oh, why is it taking so long? And so we see Orton ends up, hurting the guy there. And we are seeing the footage on, the production, in the production truck TV there. We're seeing the footage of when Orton put the screwdriver through Jeff Hardy's earlobe, which happened at Hell in a Cell, which was very hard to watch. It was like one of those turn your head, don't look at it moments. And Orton tells that production guy, what he did to Jeff Hardy is going to pale in comparison to what he's going to do to his next victim. So that's what happened. That's what happened there in the production truck at Randy Orton. But I said that match between Orton and Jeff Hardy inside the Hell in the Cell, that was one of the best matches of the night, along with the tag team match between Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. So, but yes, that was what happened in the production truck. Then we had AJ Styles being interviewed about what happened at Hell in a Cell. Styles says he believes that karma had a part in his winning over Samoa Joe at Hell in a Cell. He ends up saying the worst thing that could have happened was if Samoa Joe walked out of Hell in a Cell as WWE champion. He also says that they're going to do it one more time. No countouts, no DQ at the Super Showdown in Australia. And he says tonight he faces Andrade, and that he's facing Andrade Cien Almas, and that he needs to stop focusing on Joe. So that was the interview with Styles. Then we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev for the United States Championship. Before the match got on the way, we saw Rusev, Lana, and Aiden English backstage. Lana was going to tell Rusev what Aiden English said, but Rusev ends up telling her tell me later. And Rusev ends up telling Aiden to go out, introduce him. So the match got underway. After all that, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev for the United States Championship. This was a decent match. It was back and forth between Nakamura and Rusev. We had Lana and Aiden English out there, and points. You had Aiden English get on the mic and he starts doing the Rusev Day chant. And at the end of the match, almost towards the end of the match, Rusev ended up hitting the Machka kick to Nakamura, and Rusev was far out to pin Nakamura, and so Aiden English gets on the apron and starts chanting Rusev Day, Rusev Day, and then we had Nakamura ended up rolling Rusev, for the pin. Nakamura wins, still retains the United States Championship, so Rusev was distracted by Aiden English. Then after the match, we saw Aiden English end up hitting Rusev with the microphone, put a beat down on Rusev with the mic. He was, hitting the mic to Rusev's head. And we heard, Lana screaming, get out, get out. And after, that, he says, Happy Rusev Day. And so right from there, Rusev Day, is broken up. Aiden English turns heel. So we all knew that the Rusev Day breakup was coming. So, but it officially happened. So, but overall, Nakamura versus Rusev for the United States Championship, it was a decent match. Then we had AJ Styles versus Andrade Cien Almas. This was a very enjoyable match. This was a good match between the both of them. The wrestling in this match was, awesome. You had Andrade go up to the top, and he did like he did a flip off the top, and Styles moved out of the way, and then Andrade ended up doing another flip onto Styles, and it looked like Styles got his knees up to block the splash from Andrade, which looked really awesome. Then at the end of the match, AJ Styles ended up pinning the Styles Clash to Andrade to score the win, and so Styles wins the match. After the match, Samoa Joe comes in, comes out of nowhere and attacks Styles, and goes to the outside. Styles ends up fighting him back. He throws Joe into the steps, and we see Styles trying to to do more things to Joe, but Joe ended up raking Styles' eyes, and Joe ended up retreating into the crowd. So, but all in all, Styles versus Andrade Cien Almas, it was a good match. It was a very enjoyable match between the both of them, and the wrestling was great in that, in this match also. Then we had Asuka versus Billie Kay. Before the match started, the Iconics, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, were out there, and they say, Tulsa is the worst. Shitting on the city. And Billie Kay says Asuka and Naomi are an odd couple, and they say they are both fantastic. They say they are both fantastic dancers to Asuka and Naomi. And then Naomi's music hits. Then Asuka came out, and the match got underway. Asuka versus Billie Kay, which was a quick match. Nothing really special happened in this match. Asuka ended up getting the win. Ended up locking in the Asuka lock on Billie Kay. So it was a short match. So then we had the main event. Becky Lynch comes out. She came out for her championship coronation. Of course, Paige was out there. They had the SmackDown Women's Championship on a pedestal. It was kind of like that, and Becky ended up coming out. Becky ends up saying it took her 2 long years, and she's back where she belongs as the SmackDown Women's Champion, and the crowd popped for her. We had a chance of you deserve it, you deserve it, which she does. Took her 2 long years to get back to where she belongs, and holding the SmackDown Women's Championship, when a lot of people wanted to see her be SmackDown Women's Champion again. And she says this is her show, and her title, and she says from now on she's going to get what she deserves. And she ends up calling out Charlotte. Eventually Charlotte ends up coming out, and Paige ends up saying they both aren't going to do anything tonight, meaning fight. So Charlotte ends up telling Paige she's not here to fight. And Charlotte ends up telling Becky that, she's not out here to steal her spotlight again. And that the only reason why she's out here is because, she's showing respect to her. She's showing respect to Becky. And Charlotte says to Becky that, she was the better woman at Hell in a Cell. And that she paid a steep price to get that title. And Charlotte says, she can't wait at the Super Showdown because she's going to get her rematch. and she ends up telling Becky she can lose it in one night. And so Becky says, tonight Charlotte may touch the champ and raise her hand. And Becky's like, oh no, don't raise my hand, But she wanted Charlotte to put the title around her waist. And then, Becky was like, oh no, don't put the title around my waist. Becky ends up telling Charlotte to call her the Queen. And she ends up calling Charlotte also a bitch. And then we see Charlotte end up striking Becky. And, they both go outside. Becky takes down Charlotte. She throws Charlotte over the announce table. And later they go back into the ring. And we see Becky put Charlotte in the disarmor. Then the segment ends not only with Becky putting Charlotte in the disarmor. Becky ended up hitting a Bexploder to Charlotte. And so that's how the segment ended, and that's how SmackDown ended. But really enjoyed this segment. Really liking Becky as this anti-hero. I thought that she was a heel, but from watching her over the few weeks, I'm like, this Becky's an anti-hero that people still like. People weren't booing Becky. People don't want to boo Becky. So because they respect Becky. Saying that this was the right woman to win the SmackDown Women's Championship, not Charlotte. And people said there was going to be a double turn at Hell in a Cell between Becky and Charlotte. Becky will be a face. Charlotte would be turn heel. Eventually, we didn't get that. So, but WWE, they're probably not going to turn Charlotte heel. They're going to give her they give her the Roman Reigns treatment, because Charlotte is the now as I see it, now WWE is making Charlotte into like into the Roman Reigns on SmackDown Live. So, but really enjoyed the main event segment with Becky Lynch. Very, very enjoyable segment. And so now we go to the mixed match challenge matches. Last year there was one match. Last year, this year was pretty much different from what we saw earlier this year, where of course earlier in the year when they did this mixed match challenge, it was teams from both brands vying for a chance to win $100,000 for the charity that they were choosing, and it was an elimination mixed match challenge last season, but this season they changed it up. It's not going to be for charity. It's going to be teams competing, both teams from both brands, from Raw and SmackDown, competing in a round robin style tournament. And the finals are going to take place at the TLC pay-per-view, which is happening on the 16th of December, on December 16th. So, and we have two matches during this mixed match challenge for both brands. So the first match was from the Raw brand. It was Braun Strowman and Amber Moon versus Kevin Owens and Natalya. It was supposed to be Alexa Bliss teaming with Braun Strowman, but Alexa is injured, and so now Ember Moon is now the permanent superstar, tagging with Braun Strowman. And this was a decent match. It was an enjoyable match. We saw Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens arguing, saying, oh, I don't like you. I don't like you either. And, did Braun Strowman, did, his famous thing where, like, he runs around the ring and shoulder tackles Kevin Owens. And, Ember Moon and Natalya went at it. They were decent. Sorry about that, but I was saying Ember Moon and Natalya, they were decent in the match. And in the end, you had Ember Moon hitting the eclipse on Natalya. She ended up going on top of Braun Strowman's shoulders and ended up hitting the eclipse to Natalya. So Braun Strowman and Ember Moon win it. And although it's not elimination, Natalya and Kevin Owens still get to come back and compete. So they're not eliminated. There's no eliminations this season for the Mixed Match Challenge. And we saw that next week on the Raw brand, on the Raw side in the Mixed Match Challenge, it's going to be Sasha Banks and Bobby Lashley taking on Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox. So right from there, we all know who's probably going to win. It's going to be Sasha Banks and Bobby Lashley. With Jinder Mahal in there, you're going to lose. So then we had the SmackDown brand side for the Mixed Match Challenge. It was AJ Styles and Charlotte. They were both doing double duty tonight. Well, Charlotte wasn't even in a match. She was only in, the Becky Lynch segment. But AJ Styles was in a match against Andrade. So it was AJ Styles and Charlotte versus Jimmy Uso and Naomi. Very enjoyable match. Another enjoyable, fun match. AJ Styles and Jimmy Uso, they were decent. Charlotte ended up doing a sort of like a twerking in the match, mimicking Naomi, which was funny. You had AJ Styles end up jumping into Naomi's arms outside. That was funny. And Jimmy Uso was like, "Oh yeah, don't put your hands on my wife. Don't touch my wife." And eventually, went from there with Charlotte getting the upper hand during the match. And in the end, it was back and forth between them. Sorry about that again, but I was saying, in the end of the match, it was back and forth between all of them. It was, getting crazy. But in the end, Charlotte ended up blocking in Naomi with the figure 4, and then, did the bridge for the figure 8. And so AJ Styles and Charlotte win the match. So, but all in all, it was a fun match. It was a fun, enjoyable match. And then we saw, next week on the SmackDown side, it's going to be Asuka and The Miz. Once again, they're teaming up for the Mixed Match Challenge, just like last season. And they're going to be taking on Carmella and R-Truth. So again, that next week. So next week it's going to be Sasha Banks and Bobby Lashley versus Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox on the Raw side. And on SmackDown side, of course, going to be Asuka and The Miz versus Carmella and R-Truth. So that's going to be next week on the Mixed Match Challenge. So, anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's edition of SmackDown. Thank you all for watching, and definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow night for my Lucha Underground review. So I will see you all tomorrow night with that review, with the Lucha Underground review.